words, the primary root is short-lived, then it is replaced by many lateral roots arises from the various region of the plant body. These roots are bunch of thread-like nearly equal in size, which are collectively called as a fibrous root system. They are generally found in grasses, example Rhiza sativa. And functions of roots. Root perform two kinds of functions, namely primary function and secondary function. The primary functions are the normal function, which absorb water and mineral salt from the soil, and also it helps to anchorage. It fixes the plant firmly to the soil. Secondary function. Apart from the primary function, some of the plant roots perform additional functions. These functions are called as a secondary function. So that to perform this additional function, some of the modifications are present in the roots. Such modifications are called as a modification of root system. There are two types of modification of root systems are present. One is the taproot modification and fibrous root modification. So the taproot modification and the fibrous root modification. Taproot modification. The taproot is modified into two different functioning. One is a storage, another one is a breathing root. In storage root, it contains food materials. The root which contains storage of food materials are called as a storage root. The storage roots are classified into conical root, fusiform root and napiform root. Breathing root are called as pneumatophores. The adventitious root modifications are storage, mechanical support and vital function. Storage, they are a tuberous root, fasciculated root, nodulose root, Moniliform root and annulated roots. Mechanical support, the root modified for mechanical support are prob root, tilt root, climbing root and buttress root. And vital function, performing the very important function, epiphytic root, foliar root, sucking root and photosynthetic root. These are some of the adventitious root modification. Now we are going to learn about the different type of modifications in root system. The taproot modification, storage root, conical root, fusiform root and napiform root. In conical root, the root is cone shaped. It is broad. Example for the conical root is a carrot. At the upper part, it is broad in nature. Towards the end, it is tapers. Tapers means thread-like. It looks like a cone shape. So, it is called as a conical root, conical taproot modification. Example is a carrot. So, it is look like a cone shaped structure. The upper part is a broader. Towards the end, it is tapers. Example is a carrot, Daucus carota. And fusiform root, example is a radish. In it, both the upper and lower part are tapers, whereas at the center it is broad in nature. Such type of root modification is a fusiform root modification. Example radish. The root is both the upper and lower, it is tapers, whereas the middle part it is broad in nature. And next type is a napiform. In napiform, it is a top-like arrangement. So it is very broad at the upper part and very thin, look like a thread shape structure. In the lower part is called as a napiform. Example for napiform is a beetroot. So it is broad at the apex and suddenly tapers like a tail at the base. Example beta vulgaris. The beta vulgaris is the binomial of a beetroot, and in fusiform it is fallowen in the middle and tapers towards both the end. Example is Raphanus sativus. It means carrot. The next taproot modification is a breathing root. In some mangrove plants which contains a breathing roots, they are called as a nematodes. These breathing roots are present in some mangrove plants such as Avicennia, Rhizophora, which they are normally negatively geotropic. Mostly the roots are positively geotropic, but these roots, nematodes, are negatively geotropic because they are away from the earth. They are present in the aerial in nature. They are aerial in nature, above the soil. for respiration because the soil becomes saturated with water, and aeration is very poor. The soil is very muddy, so they are very poor in aeration. The root system too, in order to get the oxygen, they are comes out from the earth. They have a number of breathing pores or pneumatophores for exchange of gases. For exchange of gases during respiration, they contain the pneumatophores. The pneumatophores are a breathing roots. The next is a 5 adventitious root modification. Adventitious root modification: storage root, the tuberous root, fasciculated root, nodulose root, Moniliform root, or some of the type of the annulated roots, or some of the type of the adventitious root modification. Storage, example for storage roots: tuberous root. These roots are swollen without any definite shape. The tuberous root are produced singly. They are seen singly and not in cluster. Example is Ipomoea, batatas, sweet potato. In Ipomoea batatas, there is no any shapes. They are irregular in shape. So the roots are born singly. They are not in a cluster. So example for a tuberous root are Ipomoea batatas. It means a sweet potato. The next type of root is a nodulous root. In nodulous root, the root is swollen occur at the tip. The swollen root occurs at the tip region. So the tip is swollen. Example Marenta and Curcuma longa, that is turmeric, and Curcuma amenta, mango ginger. They such roots are called as a nodulous root. In nodulous root, the swollen, that is very bulge in the tip region. The next type of root is a fasciculated root. So in this root, they are look like a tuberous root, but they are cluster in nature. The tuberous root are single, but the fasciculated roots are arises clusterly. So they are also without any definite shapes. Example for this fasciculated roots are Dahlia. The next type of root is a Moniliform root or beaded root. So the roots swells at frequently with the intervals like a beads. The beads on the strings like a muthu, they are arranged in the roots. So the swollen, the thickness is present like a beads. They are beaded appearance. Example Portulaca, Momordica, or example for the Moniliform or beaded roots. The next is annulated root. These roots have several series of rings like swellings on their surface at regular interval. Example is Psychotria, Ipaca. So annulated root. In annulated root, there is the swollen is a ring like. It is a ring like. Example Psychotria. The next root modification is the adventitious roots which are modified for mechanical support. The adventitious roots modified for mechanical support. So example pillar root. These roots grows vertically. They are seen in the banyan tree. Ficus bengaliensis. There are several roots which are arises from the branch of the trees which are look like a pillar. So they are look like a pillars to give additional strength to the plants. They are very huge trees. Though they are monocotyledons, it possesses fibrous root. In order to protect the tree, giving additional anchorage to the tree, from the branches there are several pillar roots are arises. So example is a Ficus bengaliensis. The lateral roots into the soil. Example Ficus bengaliensis, banyan tree, Indian rubber. Next stilt root, brace root. These are thick roots growing obliquely from the basal nodes of the main stem. It provides mechanical support. Example Saccharum officinarum. It means sugarcane, maize, maize plant, pandanus, and Rhizophora are some of the example for the stilt root. So at the base of two or three nodes towards the soil. They contains additional support roots. Such roots are called as a tilt root. Example, sugarcane. The next is a climbing root or clinging root. It hang on the air. The next type of root is a climbing root or clinging root. So these roots arises from the nodes of the stem. So these roots are attached to the stem. It secretes a fluid which dries up in the air and attaches the plant to the support. Example for this type of root is a piper beetle, methylum, and epipernum pinnatum, money plant, or some of the example for the climbing root or climbing root. In this plant, there is no any additional supporting organ for climbing, like tendrils, like leaflet or hook-like structure. So the root itself, that is the adventitious root itself, act as a to attaches the plant to the nearby support. Used to attach the plant to the nearby support. The next type of root is a buttress root. The buttress root in certain trees, broad plank-like outgrowths develop towards the base all around the trunk. They grow obliquely downwards and gives support to the huge trunk of the tree. This is an adaptation for tall rainforest trees. Example is Bambuck cibia, red silk cotton tree, and Cibia pentandra, white silk cotton, and Delonix regia and Bambux. In these plants, that is the buttress root is present, a plank-like structure which arises around the trunk. It gives additional support to the plant. The next, vital function, the adventitious root system which perform vital functions. The first is epiphytic roots. The epiphytic roots are also called as a velamen root. The epiphytic roots is also called as a velamen root. They are present in some epiphytic orchids. Orchids develop a special kind of aerial root, that is the root which are present above the soil, which hangs freely in the air. These roots develop a spongy tissue called velamen, which absorb moisture from the surrounding air. Example is Vanda dendrobium. Folia root. The roots are produced from the veins of the lamina. It produces from the broad structure of the leaf, forming a new plant. Example, Bryophyllum bignonia. Sucking roots are pastoral roots. These roots are found in parasitic plants. So the parasites are the plants which will use on the other plant. It get food and water from the supporting plant. The parasites develop adventitious roots from the stem which penetrate into the tissue of a host plant and suck nutrition. Example is a Cascata dodder plant, Casita, Arrowbench, broom rope, and Viscum dendrophtia are some of the example for the roots which modified for pastoral root or sucking root. The next, photosynthetic or assimilatory roots. The roots of some climbing or epiphytic plants develop chlorophyll and turn green, which helps in photosynthesis. So the roots of some plant during unfavorable condition, they make a broad white green color structure. So such a root are involved in photosynthesis. Example, Tidopora, Trapa, Nentes, and Tinophyllum are some of the example for the photosynthetic root. The next system is a two-shoot system. Like the radicle of the embryo develops a root system, like the plumule of the embryo develops a shoot system. The plumule of the embryo of a germinating seeds grows into the stem. The epicotyledon elongates after embryo growth into the axis that bears leaves from the tip, which contains the actively dividing cells of the shoot called the apical meristem. Further, the cell divisions and grows, resulting in the formation of a mass of tissue called a leaf primordium. The point from the leaf arises is called as a node. The region in between the two adjacent nodes is called as a internode. The next characteristic feature of the stem. The stem is aerial, that is present above. It is green in color and it is photosynthetic and has nodes and internodes. It is positively phototrophic. It means it is moves towards the sunlight, and negatively geotropic, moves away from the earth. So the shoot system contains nodes and internodes. The stem bears vegetative buds for vegetative growth of the plant and the floral buds for the reproduction, and ends in the terminal bud. The young stem is green and thus carries out photosynthesis. During reproductive growth, the stem bears flowers and fruits. The branches arises exogenously. It is outside the pericycle. Some stems bears multicellular hairs of different kinds. Function of the stem: primary function, it support and bears leaves and flowers and fruits. It transport water and mineral nutrient to the other part from the root. It transport food prepared by the leaves to other part of the plant body. Secondary function, like the root system, the stem also performing some secondary function. Examples: Solanum tuberosa, Colocasia and Ginger officinalis. In this stem, it stores reserve food material. Perinating or reproductive organ: Zingiber officinalis, Curcuma longa. Water storage: example Opuntia. And buoyancy: example Neptunia. Are some of the secondary modification of the stem, and also performing photosynthesis. Example Opuntia, Ruscus, Euphorbia. Some stems are involved in protection purpose: citrus, bougainvillea and acacia, which contains spines or thorns in order to protect them from the grazing of animals. Support: example Passiflora, Victus, Cissus quadrangularis.